Thank you very much for being here. To give a quick primer to the audience of which excellent people you're listening to here. First of all, on your very left, we've got Meelis Lang, who's the Chief Innovation Officer at Helmus, a green digital innovation company responsible for the creation of around 30% of e-Estonia services and working with over 500 international organizations like OECD and CERN. We've got Daniel Türk, who is the global segment leader for data centers and e-mobility at ABB, a global technology leader in electrification and automation. Heiti Mering, the founder and lead partner at the Digital Logistics Center of Excellence, which is an organization leading the digitization of European logistics. And last but certainly not least, Rein Nemleit, who is the CTO at Eleport, the company building the most modern charging network in Northeastern Europe, and who's investing over 100 million euros over the next couple of years into expanding the EV charging network. Gentlemen, thank you very much for taking the time to join us here at Talent Digital Summit at the Cauldron stage. As we've already heard from this introduction, you're covering quite a variety of different approaches to sustainability and reaching the goals that we have set ourselves in Paris and elsewhere. Perhaps in just a couple of minutes, can you explain to us how you address the topic of sustainability in your chosen sectors, and what are the main pitfalls that you have to deal with on your way to improving these sectors? Meelis, let's start with you.
Okay. Thank you. So sustainability, as you said, is a really extensive, has a really extensive meaning. We from Helmus are working on software. So while in sustainability, there are a few main misconceptions that are the main kind of challenges that we have. Let's say the first one for many ICT leaders is many of the leaders believe that the sustainability footprint, the carbon footprint for ICT and digital is negligible or it's already optimized. They don't even know the numbers behind it, and both of those are incorrect. So just to understand the number of digital footprint, that is 5% of the global carbon production. So this is a really major number. Also, the second problem with the ICT leaders is they believe that when we go sustainable regarding software, that this will be more costly. They believe this will create more complexity and actually reduce the performance, which are also incorrect. So these are kind of the major challenges from the leadership side, and there are also cultural challenges regarding software engineering, ethics, and the engineers that come out of university. They don't even connect that the work they do, how it impacts the environment. So briefly, these are kind of the main misconceptions and challenges, and we can get into these later.
I'm sure we're going to get back to the topic of, digital does not necessarily equal 100% green, and there are still efficiencies to be found. Rein, what's your angle exactly on this topic?
Right, hello. So Eleport is building a charger network for electric vehicles. And the main aim for us is actually rather simple. Each car that we can replace on the street, meaning each internal combustion engine vehicle that we replace, will reduce the CO2 roughly 4 times. So each car that we can replace will help us lessen the emissions. And this is quite simple physics. Electric vehicles are just, they're so much more efficient. The efficiency is roughly 80%, while the internal combustion engine is roughly 10 to 15%. So this is what we do each day.
And how exactly does it work with the network? What were the main obstacles on the way to expanding? I mean, you're not just busy in Estonia. How do you deal with regulators? What's the reception from the municipalities that you might have to deal with, and so on?
Yeah. So challenges when it comes to building the electric vehicle charging network. I mean the hardest thing is actually getting the electrical grid connections up and running. Sometimes in Poland, for example, we wait for 2 or 3 years just to install one charger. And if there's no charger, there's no car. If there's no car, then we have to use the internal combustion engine car. And most of these issues actually come from regulation, because we have to be very spot on exactly how do we build out the electrical grid. I'm pretty sure we could actually improve the speed of how do we actually build it, because in Estonia we can do it a bit faster. So if there are some Polish colleagues, let's build them faster, yeah?
I know for a fact that there are some Polish members in the audience, so I hope that they will approach you after this panel discussion. Yeah. Heiti, what's your angle with the logistical side of things?
Yeah, thank you. Well, it has been said that transportation sector has the biggest footstep regarding the environmental waste, and we have taken the leadership role in moving or pushing the logistical sector digital. It means that in one hand we would like to get rid of the 400 million paper-based waybills, which is annually in European Union, but and this can be multiplied 3 because each copy needs to be shared. But on the other hand, we understand that there is no option that one company can do it, because the logistics is there is always multiple parties, and regulation here is quite important part. Standardization, which comes with the regulations, and that's the reason why we are cooperating very heavily with the European Commission, with different governments to work out the rules, common rules for this sector, and this is the way we see that we will lead the strategic digitalization of the whole logistics sector. So we get rid of the papers from the transportation of goods, and logistics is basically everywhere. So every company needs something, and this is what we are doing.
We've heard of the regulatory aspects. We've heard those mentioned before. What about the cultural aspect? I mean, when we talk about logistics, I would imagine that there might be some resistance from the end users, from the potential customers as well. How's your interaction with these different stakeholders going?
Yeah, we have to keep the world open. It means that we have to take into account different cultural backgrounds, different technologies, different historical beliefs, everything. So it cannot be so that you must change your information
One
system.
size fits all. Yeah, true. Daniel, what's your side of things?
Yeah, if we talk about the sustainability, we need to keep in mind it's not only about the CO2. We need to keep in mind, like we do in ABB, is that there is also social aspect. We need to keep all the different people involved in the different ages. The young people, we need to bring them to the business, to the industries to support the sustainability. When we develop new products, we also need to keep in mind that they are done considering the circular economy and what happens after the product life cycle is over, how you recycle, and also the business ethics as well. So if we talk about sustainability, it's wider. Everybody sees a different approach maybe, but we need to keep all different angles in mind. And bringing now all this to the digital, it will enable us to push it more further, to challenge also our sub-suppliers to go maybe start using electric vehicles and car chargers, electrical. So the digital will give another push that we can challenge ourselves in the future.
When it comes to the differences in transforming a software-based enterprise or activity or a physical activity, whether it's logistics or charging networks, which are at the end of the day, as you experienced in Poland, there's still physical things that have to be agreed upon. What are the main challenges in these different areas in making sure that everybody's on board with these changes? You know, how do you explain to potential customers that this is worth your time, it's worth your money, and it also helps the environment at large? Perhaps we start from left to right again.
All right, so I think the numbers really speak, and the numbers are not well known. So again, as I mentioned, the digital footprint globally is 5%, and this is from last year's report, and it's estimated that the electrical power consumption by the end of this decade, by 2030, will be 10.3% of the global electricity consumption. So this is the digital footprint. And just to explain also what is digital, because this is like over-encompassing word as well, like sustainability. As we mentioned, it is the hardware, all the devices, the data centers, even electric chargers, all of them. But it is also at the same time software. So software runs on the hardware, determines the power consumption. The software consumes as much power as there is data. So the more the data, the more the power consumption. If you generate data wastelands, then it is actually waste. And at the end of this value chain is the end user, the consumer, the person, and how they use this software or this machine, device, whatever, will determine also the power consumption. So people don't even connect that their usage of the device will, at the end of the day, determine the waste that it is created. So first of all, everybody needs to understand their role and their impact. And these numbers also, just to add a few more kind of understanding, the majority of digital waste comes from end user devices. Then number 2, end user power consumption. And then we get to the network, data centers, and everything else. People don't know that they have the most impact. And while we centrally can manage one part of it, everybody has a job to do.
As we mentioned in one of the previous panel discussions, it's good that each individual, most individuals start to understand the responsibility that they hold. Of course, they are not alone in this. Companies still provide a lot of the bigger footprints as well, but certainly there's a part that each of us can play. How, like going over to the more physical side of the offerings, how do you explain this to your customers, and how open are they to this?
I would say in case of Eleport, we have kind of like 3 layers of the whole company value chain. First of all, we have the chargers, the physical things out there somewhere. Then we build operations on top of them. So how do we keep them running? You know, somebody has to go to the site and do some maintenance. And then we have the 3rd layer, which is the customer layer. How do we get them on board to use our service? So I would even say that in addition to having just the customers, we first need to understand that, as you very well mentioned, that charging stations for themselves, they use software. If they mess up the software, it means that maybe fans are blowing and we waste just a lot of energy there. So each step that we go has to be optimized. And at every step, we need to implement the software actually into our company core values. So infrastructure, yes, we are monitoring all the time what the hell is going on with the chargers. 2nd layer, the operations. We check, okay, something is wrong. Do we need to send out the guy there or not? Can we do it remotely? Because if we have to send out the guy, it's a cost of money, also cost of labor, and at the end of the day, emissions. And then for the customer, the same thing, that if they look in the app, okay, the charger is occupied, maybe I will go to the next charger and I will charge there. So I would say that you have to kind of treat each step of the value chain with software, not just the customer, actually.
Heiti, if you could respond to this topic, of course, but also perhaps give us some added insight. You mentioned let's call it the paper economy that still exists in Europe in your sector. Is that subject to changing anytime soon? Is there some kind of regulation that pushes us in that direction, or is it basically you against the world? What's the dynamic?
Well, I would say we got our breakthrough recently, and we are planning with 9 European countries at the moment, building the network for logistics data. It means that within next 3-4 years we'll be finally able that the transportation companies, manufacturing companies can exchange the data. So we hope that the process will be maintained in real time, paperless, yeah, we are the first one who will build this network, at least in Europe. I hope this will be global, not only in Europe because logistics doesn't recognize any borders. Second thing that I would say that even we will get rid of those papers, I would say, we are thinking that then we will be green. I'm not so sure because when we change and comparing the paper-based documents, what is the footprint there with the digital? I'm not so sure that there will be so much difference, but this efficiency, the reason why those trucks are moving, we will understand this will give the much better benefit and this kind of planning. So we might get rid of those empty trucks which is on the highways and giving the reason for trucks to be in movement. And also I hope that there will be network for electrical trucks because this is very far away at the moment and we are talking today for light vehicles, but what about the trucks? It looks so far away still that...
I remember roughly 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago still, where most people would never have chosen an electric car because the charging times were just too long. Well, the thing is, truckers need to sleep one way or another. It doesn't matter for them whether it's a petrol station or an electric charger. So this is definitely one of the areas where there's a certain amount of viability for electric chargers. ABB has, and I say this with great admiration, its fingers in many different pies, many different areas of business. How would you see the relationship with the customer and convincing people, governments, businesses to choose a more sustainable path within their industries?
Yes, before I answer this one, I would like to add
there's more.
On the truck charging, the challenge has been the standard. Now the standards are coming and 1 megawatt charging is already there. If we know the buses which are using the pantogram, they are doing also 600 kilowatt and 1 megawatt charging. So let's have a water and it will be there very shortly. But convincing the customer really to buy a more sustainable or more efficient product, everybody of course looks the first price. And if we look in Europe, and also it's coming in Asia and US as well, the customers in many segments start to look total cost of ownership. And this is really what makes the difference. For example, if you buy a UPS which is maybe 1% more efficient, but during lifetime you can save $2 or $3 million. It's a significant value and you don't need so much energy and so on. And if we look at data center or the digital wise, few years ago, it was only 1% of global energy that it was used. If we talk about a few years later, today we are already reaching 2%, and it's more than, for example, aviation industry. If we talk about the IA, it most probably gonna go to, in a global scale, 45% energy usage by the data centers. So they are really looking, or those customers are really looking how much is saved on energy efficiency. We're talking about more efficient motors. Yes, you need to pay a little bit more, but you can save 30%. So there is definitely discussion, and those customers or this industry is really looking the total cost of ownership. And it's not that complicated, as they also need to report how much CO2 has been went to the production and use it every day. It's really on top of agenda in every customer.
Now, you already touched upon this a tiny bit. I want to expand on this for the whole panel. Of course, Tallinn is an innovation hub. Estonia is an innovation hub, but it's not the only one in the world. We've only got 5 minutes left in the panel, and perhaps in 1 minute each, could you tell me about where during your travels, you're getting around outside the country as well, where you've seen solutions where you said, if I could implement this in my sector tomorrow in Estonia or Europe more widely, what would it be? Where did it come from? What should we take on from the rest of the world as well? Meelis.
That's a good question. I don't think most of the world has gone green, and because people are not even aware. They don't even understand their impact. So on top of my mind, it's like you can go fully green if you just, leave out everything and and live minimally. So minimal living, minimal resources, that is the practice. So it's a question of what country, who are the people who live minimally, they have achieved this state. But most people are consumers and they don't understand the cost of this consumerism. So I would find the people with minimalism, essentialism, and start to adopt practices from there.
I remember this CO2 clock where you could see when different countries in the year, when they would reach their allocation of CO2, if it was relative by percentage. And some of the countries are, of course, living beyond their means, many in Europe very much included. And then you've got countries like Costa Rica, where the ecotourism became a very big thing quite early on. And so there are different labels that countries can attach to themselves as well if they start to shine on a national level with efforts for greater sustainability.
Yes. One idea, since this green thinking and sustainability thinking, it really drives innovation. But innovation needs another component. So we want to save the planet or reduce the harm to the environment. So that is one kind of force that is working on this. The other is resources. When you take away half of the resources, you have to become creative, resourceful. So it's kind of also the people who have less resources will be more innovative and have this kind of more positive impact.
If you have fewer resources, you must be more resourceful. Yes. Absolutely. Rein.
Yeah, I would like to continue actually from what you said, that it's about the people. So, I mean, it's about the awareness. When I started dealing with electric vehicle charging stations 6 years ago, then quite often I would call somebody and they would say, like, what the hell are you talking about? Electric vehicles, it's never going to happen. And today we're all here, we're talking about sustainability and how important it is. So I think the awareness is the key. We first need to understand that, okay, like, this is an issue. If we don't deal with it, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. So if we have to do something, as you asked, I would say that we need to raise the awareness and we need to start from there, because I think not everyone is fully probably on board on the fact that there is a global climate change going on and it is already impacting us.
So even though it is a dirty word, potentially, evangelism still is important as well, that we talk to people about our experiences. Heiti.
Yeah, when you are asking about the software and my vision, then I would say that I'm doing the right thing at the moment, and I see that regarding sustainability and digitalization, we need strong leadership and cooperation, because it can be developed or done by one company or one person. And regarding awareness of end users can be raised only through digitalization. When we have the data, we can do it with the data, right things, and this will raise our awareness about footprints and also what we can do.
Anna.
Yeah, I would like to bring 2 examples. On the software side, I really like the United Emirates system, where in the country all the invoices is coming to the government-owned system. Already taxes, everything is considered, and you can easily pay, and you don't need papers, you don't need all the fuss around with the different databases. So I like, this is really a good optimized software-wise. And if we talk about really the mechanical-wise, small countries are pushed to the innovation. And Singapore, for example, what they have done as the biggest port in the almost world or in the region, they have automated all the container carrying, sorting, shipping, loading, everything. It's all autonomous. It had to take a few laws to change, because autonomous vehicles are not really allowed. But in Singapore, considering you are in a small island and you're only 5 million people, you really need to be efficient, you need to be innovative, and I really like, there are many good examples, but we're running out of time. So.
It's also what you mentioned about the invoicing system. It's about simplifying regulations and legislation where they exist. This is not about cutting corners or anything, but just looking at the laws that were written in the 1800s, 1900s, and putting it into 2023 and ideally beyond as well.
Again, it's a small country. Like in Estonia, we have to be innovative and take a step and try, and definitely worth to try.
Wonderful. Dear audience members, please join me in thanking the panelists for this lovely discussion. I hope you had a good time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.